Welcome back to the Master of Mirrors. Tonight's reflection is cracked, twisted, and terrifying. If you are ready to face the truth, dim the lights. Let's gaze into the abyss together.
The silence was the first thing Arthur noticed. It wasn't the peaceful quiet of a library or a bedroom. It was a heavy, pressurized silence, the kind that pushes against your eardrums. Arthur blinked, peeling his face off the laminated surface of his desk. A string of drool connected his lip to the quarterly budget report for the Southeast region. He groaned, his neck screaming in protest as he sat up. The digital clock in the corner of his monitor read 3:17 a.m. "Damn it," he whispered. His voice sounded thin, swallowed instantly by the vast, open-plan floor of Archimedes Logistics. He had stayed late to finish the projected variance analysis. He remembered the cleaning crew coming through around 9, the rhythmic swish-thump of the vacuum, the smell of lemon ammonia. He had waved them off, promising he'd be gone in an hour. Then the sugar crash from 3 vending machine coffees had hit him like a physical blow. He rubbed his eyes. The office was dim, lit only by the emergency track lighting that cast long, skeletal shadows across the rows of identical gray cubicles. The 42nd floor was usually a hive of anxiety and ringing phones. Now it looked like a graveyard of monitors. Arthur stood up, his joints popping. He needed to go home. He needed a shower. He grabbed his jacket and briefcase, navigating the maze of dividers toward the elevators. He pressed the down button. Nothing happened. The light didn't illuminate. He pressed it again, harder. "Come on," he muttered. He looked at the floor indicator above the brushed steel doors. It was dark. "Power save mode?" he thought. "Is that a thing?" He turned to the service elevator at the far end of the hall. Locked. A small red light on the card reader blinked angrily at him. Fine, stairs it is. Arthur pushed through the heavy fire door into the stairwell. The concrete echo chamber was freezing. He started down. Clop, clop, clop. The sound of his dress shoes was aggressively loud. He reached the landing for the 41st floor. The door was locked. He went down to the 40th. Locked. 39th. Locked. "Okay," Arthur said, his breath misting in the cold air. "Security lockdown. I just have to go all the way to the lobby." He trudged downward. He counted the flights to keep his mind off the burning in his calves. 30, 20, 10. He reached the ground floor. He pushed the crash bar. It didn't move. Arthur frowned. Fire exits were mechanical. They couldn't be locked from the inside. That was a code violation. He threw his shoulder against it. It was like hitting a solid wall. He kicked it, shouting, "Hey, is anyone out there?" Silence. He looked at the number painted on the wall. L, lobby. He turned around to go back up, thinking maybe he could break a window on a lower floor or find a security guard station. As he looked up the spiral of the stairwell, he felt a wave of dizziness. He started climbing. He needed to get back to the 42nd floor. His phone was on his desk. He'd forgotten it in his sleepy haze. He could call 911. He climbed. He counted the floors going up. 1, 2, 3. By the time he hit 20, he was sweating. By 35, he was gasping. He reached the door marked 42. He grabbed the handle. It turned. Arthur stumbled back into the office, his chest heaving. "Thank God," he wheezed. He walked toward his cubicle, intending to grab his phone, and he stopped. He was standing at the reception desk. The Archimedes Logistics logo, a golden triangle, was mounted on the wall. But something was wrong. The reception desk was facing the wrong way. Arthur turned in a slow circle. The layout was familiar, yet inverted. The break room, which should have been on his left, was on his right. The corner office belonging to Mr. Henderson was on the north side, not the south. "I'm tired," Arthur whispered, clutching his briefcase. "I'm just tired," and turned around. He walked to where his desk should be, row G, seat 14. He counted the rows. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. He walked down the aisle. 10, 11, 12, 13. Seat 14 was there, but it wasn't his desk. The cubicle walls were taller here. They reached up to the ceiling, effectively sealing the workspace into a small, fibrous-rind cell. There was no door, just a seamless box of gray acoustic foam. What is this? Arthur backed away. He looked across the sea of cubicles. They were all growing. As he watched, the dividers on row H elongated, stretching silently toward the ceiling tiles like gray fungus. The overhead fluorescent lights flickered violently, then buzzed with a sound like a hive of angry hornets. The light shifted from a dim emergency yellow to a blinding clinical white. It was too bright. It washed out all color, turning the world into high-contrast monochrome. Ring! A phone rang. It wasn't a digital trill. It was an old-fashioned mechanical bell ringing. It was coming from inside the sealed cubicle at G14. Arthur knew he shouldn't answer it. Every instinct in his lizard brain screamed him to run back to the stairs. But the stairs were a trap. The elevators were dead. The phone was the only sign of life. He grabbed a metal letter opener from a nearby desk, row G, seat 12, which was still normal height, and slashed at the fabric wall of G14. The fabric tore with a wet, organic sound. Beneath the gray wool was not particle board, but a thick, fibrous mesh that oozed a black, ink-like substance. He kicked the hole, widening it, and squeezed inside. His desk was there. His spreadsheet was there. The phone was ringing. The caller ID screen was blank. He picked up the receiver. "Hello? I'm trapped in the building. I need help." "Arthur," the voice said. It was smooth, synthetic, and genderless. It sounded like the automated voice on the elevator, but intelligent. "You are not trapped. You are being processed." "Who is this? Is this security?" "Productivity has dropped, Arthur. The variance analysis was due at midnight. It is now the quarter of the red moon." "What? Look, I don't know who this is, but I'm calling the police."
"Your contract, Section 14, Paragraph B," the voice continued calmly. "Employees agree to dedicate all necessary hours to the completion of critical tasks until release is granted. Release has not been granted." "I quit," Arthur shouted. "I'm leaving." "Resignation is not a recognized command during a lockdown event. Please return to your workstation. The audit is beginning." Click. The line went dead. Suddenly, the printer in the corner of the cubicle whirred to life. Whir, clack, whir, clack. A page slid out, then another, then faster. Arthur looked at the first sheet. It was a photo of him sleeping at his desk, taken from the ceiling angle. The second sheet was a photo of him in the stairwell, looking terrified. The third sheet was a photo of him standing in the cubicle right now, holding the paper. Arthur looked up. There was no camera. The printer began to scream. It wasn't a mechanical noise anymore. It was a high-pitched shriek of grinding gears. Paper spewed out of it like a fountain, filling the small room. Thousands of sheets. Arthur scrambled back through the hole he had cut. The office had changed again. The rows of cubicles were gone. In their place was a vast open field of carpet, endless gray industrial carpet stretching to a horizon that shouldn't exist inside a building. Spaced irregularly across this carpet plane were pillars, thick concrete pillars. And wandering between the pillars were the walkers. At first, Arthur thought they were co-workers. He saw a man in a blue shirt holding a coffee mug, a woman in a pantsuit carrying a binder. "Hey," Arthur yelled, running toward the man in blue. "Hey, we need to find a way out." The man stopped and turned. He had no face. Where his features should have been, the skin was smooth and pale, like the back of a thumb. No eyes, no mouth, no nose.
Yet he was making a sound, a low, mumbling drone. Per my last email, regarding the synergy, circling back. The sound wasn't coming from a mouth. It was vibrating from his chest. Arthur skidded to a halt. The faceless man took a step toward him. Actionable items, deliverable by EOD. The woman in the pantsuit turned too. Her face was a concave dish of flesh. Touch base, leverage the assets. They were the jargon made flesh, empty suits filled with corporate buzzwords. Arthur turned and ran. He ran across the infinite gray carpet. The lights overhead hummed louder, trying to drill into his skull. He saw more of them, dozens, hundreds, wandering aimlessly, murmuring about KPIs and EBITDA. He saw a glass wall in the distance, the conference room. It was glowing with a blue light. Arthur sprinted, his lungs burning. The faceless things were slow, but they were everywhere. He dodged a creature wearing the shredded remains of an IT uniform, its limbs elongated and dragging on the floor like cables. He reached the glass wall and threw himself against the door. It slid open. He collapsed inside. This room was different. The carpet was plush and maroon. There was a long mahogany table. At the head of the table sat a figure. It was a man in a sharp black suit. He had a face, a handsome, sharp-featured face with graying temples. He was reading a file. "Mr. Henderson?" Arthur gasped. It was the CEO. The man didn't look up. "You're late, Arthur." "Sir, something is happening. The building, the people, we have to get out." Henderson turned a page. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet room. "Out? Why would we go out? The work isn't done." "The work doesn't matter. There are monsters out there." Henderson finally looked up. His eyes were entirely black. No whites, no irises, just void. "Monsters? No, Arthur. Those are the ones who stopped providing value. They are the redundancy." He gestured to the empty chairs around the table. "Take a seat. We are discussing your retention." "I'm not sitting down." Arthur backed toward the door. "Arthur," Henderson said, his voice deepening, vibrating the mahogany table, "you know why the office is open plan. You know why the walls are glass. So we are all one organism. You have been resisting the assimilation." Henderson stood up. As he did, he kept rising. His legs lengthened, his torso stretched. He towered over the table, 7 feet, 8 feet tall. "The variance analysis," the ting that looked like Henderson boomed. "We act as a family here, and families stay together." Arthur turned to the door, but the glass had turned to stone. He was trapped. "The variance analysis," Henderson roared. He reached across the table, his arms stretching like taffy, his hand expanding into a massive claw of bone and expensive fabric. Arthur scrambled under the table. He saw a vent grate near the floor. He kicked it. It rattled. He kicked it again, harder. The screws popped. He squeezed into the ductwork just as the massive hand crushed the mahogany table into splinters. Arthur crawled. The duct was tight, smelling of dust and ozone. He could hear the creature roaring in the vent behind him, a sound like bending metal. He crawled for what felt like hours. His knees were bleeding. His suit was in tatters. He saw light ahead, a grate looking down. He peered through. He was looking down at the 42nd floor, but it was normal. It was daytime. Sunlight streamed through the windows. People were walking around. Phones were ringing. I saw Jenkins from accounting laughing at a joke. I saw Sarah from HR eating a bagel. "It's over," Arthur sobbed. "It's morning. People are here." He kicked the grate out and fell, tumbling onto the carpet of the main aisle. He scrambled up, laughing hysterically. "Help! Call the police! You have to listen to me!" He grabbed Jenkins by the shoulders. "Jenkins, the CEO, the stairs! You don't understand!" Jenkins looked at him. He looked annoyed. "Arthur, Jesus, man, you look terrible. Did you sleep in your clothes?" "I was trapped. There were things without faces."
Jenkins pulled away, brushing off his jacket. "Look, buddy, you've clearly had a breakdown. You need to go see management." "No management." Arthur backed away. "I think he's right," Sarah said. Her voice lost its inflection. "Management needs to see you." Arthur looked around. The office had gone quiet. Everyone was looking at him. 50 people. They all stopped typing. They all stopped talking. They just stared. "What?" Arthur whispered. "You are disrupting the workflow," Jenkins said. "You are creating a variance," Sarah said. Then, in unison, the entire office spoke. "The work must be completed." Arthur looked at the windows. The sunlight wasn't moving. The shadows of the clouds on the carpet were static. He ran to the nearest window and looked out. There was no city. There was no sky. Outside the window was just a wall of concrete, painted light blue with white fluffy clouds. The sun was a massive stadium light bolted to the concrete wall. He wasn't out. He was just deeper in. "No," Arthur whimpered. The staff began to move toward him. They moved in perfect synchronization, stepping left, stepping right, closing the circle. "Join us, Arthur," Jenkins said. He held out a hand. His fingers were fusing together. Arthur spotted the only thing that looked real, the fire axe in the glass case on the wall. He smashed the glass with his elbow, ignoring the pain. He grabbed the axe. "Stay back!" He swung the heavy weapon. The employees stopped. They tilted their heads. Section 14, paragraph C. Destruction of company property is grounds for immediate termination. "Terminate this!" Arthur swung at the nearest cubicle wall, tearing it down. He swung at the computers. Sparks flew. He ran toward the elevator bank, hacking at the drywall. If he could just find the structural beams, maybe he could hurt the building. He chopped through the plaster. Behind the drywall, there were no beams. There were no pipes. There was meat. Pulsing, red, raw muscle tissue. Veins the size of garden hoses throbbed with black fluid. The building was bleeding. Arthur dropped the axe. The building groaned, a low, wet sound that came from the floorboards and the ceiling tiles. The elevator doors pinged. Ding! The doors slid open. Inside was not a cab. It was a mouth, a vertical maw lined with teeth made of filed-down filing cabinets. A wind sucked into the elevator, pulling at Arthur's clothes. "The position has been filled," the elevator voice announced. Arthur dug his fingers into the meat wall, trying to hold on. The employees were on him now, hands clamped onto his ankles, his waist. They weren't hitting him, they were dragging him. "Let me go." "We are streamlining," Jenkins whispered in his ear. "We are optimizing." They threw him toward the elevator. Arthur caught the edge of the doorframe. He stared into the abyss of the shaft. He could see other floors below, thousands of them, all filled with people typing, printing, suffering. He looked up at Jenkins. "Why?" Arthur screamed. Jenkins smiled. His teeth were gone, replaced by a smooth ridge of bone. "Because it's Monday, Arthur, and we have a lot to do." Jenkins pried Arthur's fingers loose. Arthur fell. He didn't scream as he plummeted down the throat of Archimedes Global. He didn't scream because, as he fell, he changed. The terror evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. His skin hardened into plastic. His blood cooled into ink. His mind was wiped clean of memories, of his cat, his mother, the taste of beer. All that remained was data. Arthur landed in a chair.
He didn't know how long he had fallen. He was sitting at a desk. A spreadsheet was open in front of him. Quarterly variance analysis, purgatory region. He picked up a pen. His hand was gray and smooth. He didn't have fingerprints anymore. He looked at the clock. 8:08 a.m. Better get started. The thought wasn't his own. It was a directive from the building. He began to type. He would never be late again.
The story may be over, but the reflection remains. If you survived this tale, leave a like to ward off the bad luck. To gaze further into the abyss, make sure you subscribe to the Master of Mirrors and ring the bell. You never know what might be standing behind you in the next video. Watch your back.